So, mate, pretty exciting times. No doubt looking forward to tomorrow night. It's a real challenge.
A massive challenge, probably the biggest for the year. The reigning premiers and Friday night football, which is all fantastic for us. We don't get too many of them, so to have it at home, big crowd, good support, we're looking forward to it.
All players got their spring in the step.
A few haircuts.
Something different at training this week?
There's always 2 or 3 extra haircuts on a Friday night game, so coaches included.
And how much do you use the elimination final loss to the Bulldogs?
Yeah, no, I don't really. We used a bit of vision for strategic purposes and what they're trying to do with the ball, and so quite often you reflect on the last time you played, but no, I won't be using that as motivation. It's a completely different season, different atmosphere, different focuses in terms of what we're about. So I know it's got relevance because it's the last time we played, but no, it's not a motivating factor.
How different is what they're doing around the ball? Obviously that was a bit of a problem last year in the final. Have you noticed any changes there you need to adapt to?
It's still one of their major strengths is what they do around the contest. I know their numbers suggest they're not quite as dominant as they were last year, but I think their best is still the best in the competition, and how they move the ball out of that contest is really hard to stop and something you've got to be aware of. But, we can't get too obsessed about it, but you know, that's one of their strengths.
How do you weigh up your ruck situation? Obviously you weren't that happy with it last weekend, but their strength isn't the ruck. So do you potentially think you could get an advantage there by playing 2 big men?
Maybe, yeah. I think lots of teams who play the Bulldogs would think, oh geez, we can get an advantage in the ruck if we stack that area of the game or really focus on it. So we see it as an opportunity to perform better than last week. I thought we lowered our colours last week, so we just want to be consistent in that area rather than try and expose anything.
Are you hamstrung though, because you haven't got many options to improve the ruck considering all the injuries you've got?
Yeah, we still want to back in our players, and we've got players who play ruck at the moment. So I know Nick's not there and Lycett's unavailable and Drew's probably available next week, but we think we've got enough personnel to get it done. We just didn't get it done last week.
So the 2 ruckmen, are you going to stick by that?
We'll look at that, yeah, we'll look at it, so you'll find out in a few hours.
And you mentioned Petrie, so he's looking pretty good for next week.
Yeah, really impressed with him. He's recovered probably 2 or 3 weeks earlier than expected. So Cripps, Duggan will play tomorrow, but Cripper will be back next week. Drew and Nelson should all be in the mix to play next week, which is good for us. We've had a few injuries this year.
Just with Petrie, how much of a bonus is that, given the ruck situation at the moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, Drew, he hasn't played ruck for a long, long time, and he's played it for a half, round 1. So to suggest he'll come in and take over the ruck stocks, I don't think that's quite true. But he'll add to the depth and add to the options when he's available. So he's been training really well without using the ball. So he hasn't really marked the footy yet. So we've got to get through that. But he'll be available next week.
Does he come through the waffle?
I don't know. I'll have to wait and see how we progress tomorrow night and how he progresses throughout the week.
Can you just give us the pros and cons when you weigh up 2 rucks versus 1 ruck against the Doggies without necessarily telling us which way you're going to go? What's the upside and downside of either?
Yeah, look, I suppose rather than looking at the advantages or disadvantages, it's what the reality is for us at the moment is our rucks can't ruck a whole game, so they need assistance. So whether it's a ruck with a forward who can pinch hit, or you play 2 rucks. That's what we're going through at the moment. So some teams can actually play someone for 80–90%. We can't do that at the moment. Our boys can't get through a full game in that area. So we have to have someone who's in our forward half that can pinch hit. So there's options. We've tried McGovern and Darling, and obviously Giles and Vardy have been working through that position. So rather than looking at the pros and cons, it's just what we've got at the moment and getting the most out of them.
Do you expect, I think Jong had a bit of a run in the ruck, which is really, you know, I mean, other teams are trying to do it as well with Watts and
Yeah.
Do you expect maybe them to try that again, and have you got a plan in place for that?
Yeah, I mean, our Dean Cox, our ruck coach, and Justin Longmuir is our stoppage coach, will strategise that if it happens. To try and get an advantage, I suppose every bit of advantage you get in the air, you're going to lose on the ground. So Bevo wouldn't be doing it if he didn't see benefit in doing it. So whether they do that or not this week will be based around selection tonight. So once we get those teams in, then we can sort of plan a little bit more. But no, it's not something that's, I think, going to win or lose the game.
Duggan come up okay?
Yeah, I'm really pleased. He trained last week. He's just a little bit sore. He's been copping a bit of a ribbing, missing a game through a corky, but it was a big corky. And he trained well this week, so he's 100%.
So you said before he'll come in tomorrow
Yeah, he'll
night?
play.
Yeah. Just one change? Or do you expect
Maybe.
Bevo supposedly was a little sneaky on selection today. Do you expect many changes? And knowing him, do you?
I'm not sure. I noticed they're training in 3 different venues this afternoon, so they're little side games that, you know, entertaining, I suppose. But no, we'll wait till selection, and there'll be plenty of time for both teams to strategise with selection. But that's secondary, really. I mean, the way the Bulldogs play, and hopefully the way we play, is, you know, regardless of 1 or 2 inclusions, it's got to be about the collective, and we all know what they're about and how well they've done as a team. And this year in particular, they've come back from, you know, a long way back throughout games. So their confidence is pretty high, and we're in a pretty good space as well.
So do you have 3 different Snoops in different areas?
No, we'll just wait at the airport.
You're saying it's work in progress this year as you build towards the tail end of the year, but how much did the evolution of your defence come forward last week for the back 6 and what they achieved with the Port Adelaide onslaught?
Yeah, look, it was a tick for our back line. It's something we don't want to do every week. I mean, 70 insides, 50s around about, you normally just don't win. So I think it was a great tick for our back 6. It was their best game as a collective. We've had some really good individuals throughout the year down there with McGovern and Yo in particular, but I thought the back 6 as a unit worked really well. And a little bit of that was from the pressure up the ground, and you know, we've been inconsistent in that area. The constant pressure and you know, the right intent up the ground really helps our backs, and I'm not ashamed to say that. This is the way it works with us. We need pressure up the ground for us to do what we want to do, and we can control that. So that's the consistency we're looking for, not other backs going to get it done or not.
Why has Yo been so good this year?
Well, he's got a new role. He's 23, so you know, I know there's players out there who just jump in and just play well from the very beginning. But I would have thought a 23-year-old still working through, you know, their own form and consistency. So last year was disappointing at stages, and we played him as a forward who pinched hit on ball, and perhaps playing behind the ball, and that's where he come from. We got him from Brisbane. It was a bit more natural to him, so I think he's grown from that role, and his little pinch hits on ball has been a benefit as well for the club. So perhaps a bit of it was us settling him down in a position, but I think it was just the maturity of the player, and he's not going to be, you know, like this the whole way. He'll be ups and downs, but there's a bit more consistency in his game now.
Are you tempted to have him go with Bontempelli? Maybe not a full tag, but sort of a head-to-head sort of situation?
Yeah, it'd be a good matchup. Yeah, Bontempelli's, you know, another level with his performances. But if we put too much work into him, there is so many good midfielders in the Bulldogs at the moment that it might compromise other things. So we'll look at it. I know the tagging is a hot topic at the moment, and it's something that we need to look at if we need to. But it takes away a few things with what he does in other areas of the ground. So we'll look at it though. It's probably the obvious matchup for the 2 sides, being so tall. And he's done it before with Fife, so it's something we'll look at.
Did you have some time with him pre-season after last year, which was disappointing for Elliott, to pull him aside and say, this needs to be your year, you need to perform at this level? Did you have any extra time with him?
No more than anyone else. Yeah, no, he's just normal, treating him like everyone else. You know, the fact that he's got a lot of upside, I think we all know that, and seeing the consistency that we've seen this year is really pleasing for our supporters and for him and for me. But to say I've put more extra work into him, demanding more, they demand a lot from themselves, and quite often it's how you deal with the pressure rather than trying to put more pressure on them. We're confident our mids at their best are as good as anyone. The consistency of effort and pressure, like I said before, is something that we're still working towards. The rotations for us with Mitchell coming into the side and trying to get the best out of him and Pritis and Yo, and then obviously Shuey and Gaff. And while we're doing that, we're trying to get Sheed and Duggan going as well. So We're working through that. We're different than what we were 4 weeks ago with how we rotate our mids, and in particular when you're playing the Bulldogs, they just rotate so many players through there in different positions. We want to be flexible as well, not just rely on the top 3 or 4 mids. We want to get everyone going, so that's ongoing.
Do you feel like, given what Sam brings to the table and given what the Dogs do well, do you feel like you're better equipped to deal with that with Sam in your team?
I'm hoping Sam complements what we do, not drives those. He definitely drives standards, and his leadership's been exceptional around the club. But in terms of performance, I want him to complement our style of play and how we go about it. And I think he's done that well this year. So we won't be relying on him to make the difference for us. We'll be part of the collective in probably the biggest challenge we've had this year.
I guess my point is he's good in close, and he handles cleanly, he makes really good decisions, gets the ball out from in close.
Yeah, we want all of our mids to be like that. The fact is he's done it for 15 years helps, no doubt. But you know, he's probably on ball for 50% of the game, and there's so many other roles around that stoppage or midfield battle that we're going to need everyone doing that. Everyone's got to be clean this week.